You really shouldn't start an intermittent fasting plan. Well, at least not until you watch this video, because today I'm giving away the top 5 ways that allow you to burn fat faster while fasting. If you've already tried intermittent fasting and you did it correctly, you've probably already noticed some really great results. You probably lost some body fat, maybe lost a few pounds off the scale, and you've become more productive in the process, which is all great. But I know if you could double or triple your results without spending more time in the gym or in the kitchen, you would be more than happy to learn how. Am I right? I think I'm right. So let's get started with the very first trick. When you break your fast during your feeding window, you want to stick primarily to foods that don't spike your blood sugar and, more importantly, that don't spike your insulin levels. And those two things aren't always the same. As many of you already know, one of the major benefits of fasting is that it'll allow you to lower your insulin levels. Insulin is a fat storage hormone that serves as a bridge between your cells and the nutrients coming into your body. Your body will also stop burning fat when insulin levels are elevated. When we fast, we're not just looking to lower calories by not eating. Even though fasting will definitely do this, the main goal of fasting for fat loss is to decrease insulin levels. And there really is no better solution for doing just that. When you simply don't eat, your body's insulin levels are naturally at their lowest. However, what most people don't realize is that even if you fast perfectly, once you break your fast, you could spike your blood sugar and insulin levels high enough to cause your body to actually store fat rather than burn it. So if you want to burn fat at the fastest rate, the goal has to be to keep your insulin levels low even after breaking your fast. We can do that by understanding some basic principles and then making a decision on what to eat during your feeding window around those key concepts. First, let's get the obvious out of the way. Sweets, processed food, and junk food will all spike your insulin levels the highest while providing the lowest amount of nutrients. So if you want to burn fat faster after breaking your fast, stick only to real wholesome single ingredient foods. Most of these foods you'll find by sticking to the outside aisles of your local grocery store or supermarket while avoiding the inner aisles. Next, you have to know that carbohydrates have the biggest impact on your insulin levels. Certain types of dairy have equally as big of an impact. Other sources of protein have a moderate impact, and fat has the smallest impact. By not overindulging in carbohydrates and dairy after breaking your fast, you'll already be miles ahead of most people. Since fasting is supposed to be a flexible dieting structure, I don't want you to restrict your carbs or dairy to nothing. In fact, by doing that, it'll probably make you want to have them even more. Instead, I want you to break your fast with a large serving of vegetables in order to fill your stomach up and take the edge off of your hunger. Then move on to your protein and your fat sources, and then if you're still hungry, you could move on to some low glycemic carbohydrates and dairy. This will allow you to limit your insulin spikes during your feeding window without actually thinking about it and without restrictions. Let's move on to the second way to burn fat faster that goes hand in hand with the first tip we just went over. I'm talking about keto fasting. Keto fasting is a combination of the ketogenic diet and fasting. This will make your diet a little less flexible because you will have to adhere to a certain macronutrient split, but it's an incredibly effective way to speed up the amount of fat lost from fasting. Here you would start by setting up a regular intermittent fasting and feeding window. A common example would be to break your fast at 1 o'clock and then switch back to fasting at 9 o'clock. But during that 8-hour feeding window, with this method, you'll actually want to keep your carbohydrate consumption under only 5 to 10% of your total daily caloric intake. This means no grains, no starchy veggies, and only berries for your fruit. You'll also want to keep your protein intake right around 15 to 20% of your daily intake because remember, protein is also insulinogenic, and your fat should be right around 75% of your total calories. With this kind of macronutrient split, you'll keep your insulin levels very low, both while fasting and while eating. It'll help you stay in ketosis all day long. Now keep in mind, you don't have to follow a keto dieting structure all the time to experience faster fat loss. Just by throwing in a couple days where you do keto fasting and then by switching to more of a regular fasting approach on the other days, you will increase the amount of fat you're burning throughout the week. Now, even though combining the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting is one of the most effective ways to lower insulin levels and burn fat, there are even more effective ways to burn fat faster. This leads us up to the third tip, which is to extend the length of your fast. Since fasting is the absolute fastest way to decrease insulin levels and burn fat for energy, the longer we stay in a fasted state, the more fat you'll burn. Once you get used to the shorter term intermittent fasting protocols, try to work your way up to more of an extended fast lasting 24 to 48 hours. First, you would try to go from having a regular 8-hour feeding window to only a 4-hour feeding window. Then move on to only eating one meal a day at the same time every day. Finally, you would try to do an extended fast where you would not eat anything for 36 to 48 hours. Even though this may sound very difficult, I could say from experience that by working your way into it, it can be a lot easier than it sounds. A longer fast like this will create a much larger calorie deficit for the entire week. And as I already said, insulin will be at its lowest point, allowing for maximum fat burning. Let's move on to the fourth way you could burn fat faster while fasting, and that's by performing fasted workouts. And look, I know fasted training has come under a lot of attack by the mainstream fitness community about how it doesn't burn more fat than regular training in a fed state. But misinformation in the fitness community spreads like wildfire. The idea that fasted training doesn't burn more fat came mostly from a very flawed series of studies. One major reason why these studies were flawed was because right after doing the fasted workouts, the participants were given a meal replacement shake. These meal replacement shakes shot the participants' insulin levels way up and shut the fat burning process down. There is yet to be a study that compares a group that continued fasting after training on an empty stomach to a group that trained fed. This means that these studies that supposedly deny the benefits of fasted training made it impossible for the participants to experience the major benefit of fasted training itself, which is the extra fat you would burn after the workout by not eating right away while insulin levels were already extremely low. Regardless of all that, there are still numerous studies that confirm the benefits of fasted training even without continuing to fast after the workout. One study compared 28 men and divided them into 3 groups, one of which did not exercise, another one that exercised after eating a carbohydrate-rich meal, and the last that skipped eating before exercising. The researchers were surprised to find that on almost all levels, including body composition, insulin levels, and how much fat was either lost or gained, the fasted training group blew the other 2 away. There are also numerous other studies, including a meta-analysis on over 270 people, that point to the benefits of fasted training. I'm a firm believer that fasted training allows you to use more fat for energy because glycogen stores are already depleted. By continuing to fast for a couple hours after your fasted workout, you increase fat mobilization and continue burning more fat until you eat, which allows you to ultimately burn more fat over the course of 24 hours. I'll link up some research below in support of fasted training, and you can make up your own mind. The last way to speed up fat loss with intermittent fasting is by lifting heavy weights. Lifting heavy weights that challenge you and bring your muscles close to failure is one of the best ways to deplete glycogen stores in your body. Fasting will deplete glycogen stores very efficiently on its own, but by progressively pushing yourself and lifting heavier weights, you will always be depleting your so-called glycogen gas tank. When glycogen is depleted, your body looks to get its energy from other sources, such as your fat stores. Weight training will also help you build more muscle, allowing you to store more glycogen in your muscle cells rather than your fat cells. If you're not incorporating weight training into your program, then I very highly recommend that you start now and work on progressively increasing the weight load that's used over time. That's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and also, if you're still looking for a simplified step-by-step way to burn fat faster, check out my 6-week challenge where on average my clients are losing either 20 pounds or 5% body fat in just 42 days. This challenge comes with a customized diet plan that changes every single week, as well as a weekly workout plan, a recipe book, and an accountability coach to mentor you and guide you through the entire process. If you're serious about making a transformation and you're willing to put in the work and the effort required to do so from day 1 to day 42, then the whole challenge can be yours for free. Head on over to my website by clicking the link below to find out more details about the challenge. The website is www.gravitytransformation.com. I'll see you guys soon.
Pump it.